Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by CJ Hyden, author of Get Clients Now. CJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Happy to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
I sure am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I would say get it done as soon as you possibly can. You know, your first book, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Just finish the darn thing and get it out there. Make it short if you need to. Books that are just over 100 pages are really popular these days. And then start working on your next one. You know, I knew I wanted to write a book when I was 8 years old, and I didn't publish my first one until I was over 40. So since then, I've been able to publish 6 books, but imagine how many I could have published if I'd started when I was 8.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is you just have to realize, and you've already mentioned this, done is better than perfect. Just get your story out and share it with the world.
So true. And that is definitely what I tell people. And one of the ways that you learn how to be a better writer is you write stuff and you put it out there and you get feedback from the actual people who you're writing to, not just friends and not just a paid editor, but the people who you're trying to reach. What do they think about it? Is it useful? Do they like it? That's how you're going to get better at reaching the people you want to with your material.
Absolutely. I had a health crisis 8 years ago, and long story short, got my act together, changed my life. And then what happened, right? I had this book in my head, and it just was stuck there for 4 years. Kind of like what you were talking about. It's like you always wanted to do this, but what's stopping you? So literally I had this epiphany 4 years later and got the book done. Was able to, within a month, get it published, became my first bestseller. And the biggest thing I realized is, yeah, it was hard work. But the thing is, it was a story that we wanted to get out there. And it was also a story that you could read on a flight from Dallas to New York, where it's a few hours, it's something that can be consumed quickly, and they can connect with you. And I think you bring up so many great points with that, because it doesn't have to be a huge novel. It just needs to be something that's relatable that the reader can connect with you with.
That's right. And once you start connecting with your readers, that gives you more of a direction to help you figure out, where do I want to go with this? What do I want to write next? Is this even working for me? Rather than just sitting there thinking about it or struggling with it.
Absolutely. Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
If you're trying to do it through a traditional royalty publisher, it's tough to get the attention of a publisher or an agent for a first-time author. You've got to work really hard on building a platform with speaking and teaching, or leading a membership community, or blogging and other forms of short-form writing. But once you've done the work to build up an audience, you're going to find, I think, for just about everybody, that self-publishing or hybrid publishing is a better way to go. After I did 2 royalty published books, I switched to self-publishing for my next 4, because by then I'd built up my own mailing list. I had my own audience, and I've been much happier since I made that switch, and I'm really enjoying now being a self-published author.
Yeah, and building that platform is key. And the funny thing is, and I'm sure you've noticed this, a lot of traditional publishers, when they're researching prospective authors out there, what are they looking for? They're looking for if you have a platform. Because most traditional publishers, they do not want to mess around with the marketing. So they want to already find people that have those followings. But what you did was reverse engineer it, realizing you now have this platform. you're just going to go out there and do it yourself. And as long as everything's professional, with professional formatting, cover, and most importantly, editing, then your product is just as good as any Big Five publisher.
And sometimes better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely with that. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just having that platform. Because Stephen King, he did the same thing. He left going through traditional publishers, did it himself because he had this huge following, and now he's making more money than ever.
Yeah, so it's entirely possible if you pay attention to the marketing. It's really key. And I know a lot of people who say, well, I just want to write and get my stuff published. So therefore, I don't want to publish myself because I don't want to mess with the marketing. And I have to tell them, hello, going through a royalty publisher isn't going to get you off the hook. You still have to do most of the marketing.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the biggest eye opener that prospective clients realize is, wow, I still have to do marketing. Why can't I just write a book and have the publisher deal with everything else? Well, that's not how it works anymore. Maybe 20 years ago. But in this day and age, they expect you to be doing as much of the marketing and the selling of the book as possible.
That's right. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to have a successful book.
Yep. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
One of the things that I've enjoyed doing is offering virtual book talks. So inviting people who were in my audience to come to a webinar and talk about the content of the book. It gives me something that's free that I can invite people to, that doesn't cost me anything. It gets me into direct contact with members of my audience, turns into some great testimonials. It's a nice boost on early sales because, of course, I give people some kind of extra for coming to the book talk and then purchasing one of the books. And I've really liked that format so much better than trying to do in-person book launch events. Everybody's busy. And if you've been out there trying to build up your platform, what you've probably found these days is people aren't necessarily local. And by doing a virtual book talk, you could invite people that are interested in your work from all over the country, all over the world, and have immediate feedback from people that you can then turn around and share with other people. So it's a nice beginning boost when a book is first published.
That is such an innovative idea. So you would go speak different companies, campuses, and then you would invite those attendees to attend essentially a webinar or virtual book talk, and they would come on that doing that route.
I would actually cut out the beginning of that loop and not go speak in public at all. Again, I'm speaking as somebody who has built up a substantial mailing list over the years. Mm-hmm. I just invite the people who are on my mailing list and people who follow me on social media to come and show up at a webinar at a particular date and time and talk about the new book.
Nice. Yeah, that is a great strategy. And how did that typically work out? So if you don't mind me asking, just ballpark, how large what have you been able to build your platform up to?
My mailing list is 20,000, but I don't get anywhere near that kind of participation at a book talk. You know, whenever you offer something free, you've got about 50% drop off. So if 200 people say they're going to come, you get 100 people.
Yeah.
But hey, 100 people to be talking to live. Wow. You know, if I could get that at a bookstore, it'd be fabulous, right? So 100 people in the audience is terrific because they're invested people. They've taken the time out of their day to come and be with you, and they're going to share that experience with somebody else. They're going to say, hey, I got to talk to the author live. I got to ask my own question and hear her interacting with people. And that was something that people would like to share on social media too. Hey, doing participating in a book talk with CJ Hyden. So I've been very happy with how that's helped to spread the word early on.
Yeah, that is a great strategy. Did you have a call to action at the end for them to go to the link to buy a copy of your book, or how did you actually were able to take those conversions and have them purchase copies of your books and leave reviews, that type of thing?
Absolutely. I always give them some sort of gift if they buy the book right now. I don't like to offer a discount on a just published book. I think that reduces the value, so I'll offer it at full price, but they'll get something extra from me. So perhaps an ebook copy of one of my older books or one of my home study courses, something as a premium to get them to act right away.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
I don't have just one favorite, but I was influenced by Barbara Sher's books like Wishcraft and I Could Do Anything If Only I Knew What It Was, and Richard Bolles' classic, What Color Is Your Parachute? I read Wishcraft and Parachute early on in my career, and they really helped me grasp that building the work I wanted, whether that was as a self-employed person or a business owner or an employee, it was up to me. I couldn't just try and find what I wanted by looking online, looking in the want ads in the old days. It wasn't going to happen that way. I needed to make things up the way I wanted them to be, and then go out and look for places I could do that and people I could do it for. So it helped me to make the jump from being an employee to being a business owner. And it also helped me, even before that, to be a much, much happier employee because I was doing work that I found interesting in fields that attracted me instead of just sitting back and waiting to see what fell into my lap.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that because it really does make all the difference with that. CJ, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Best way is my website, cjhayden.com, and Hayden is spelled Hayden, cjhayden.com.
Well, CJ, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.